well received by the social networking community. But what people don't really realize is that whenever a new service comes out, the old vulnerabilities are still there. So this is a proof of concept from a team of Chinese hackers that managed to find a cross-site scripting vulnerability in Google Wave just after Google Wave was launched. So old threats, new applications. Cross-site scripting has been out there for several years right now. There should be no reason that cross-site scripting vulnerabilities would still be found in web applications. But reality shows that they are still being found. And this is probably because the social networking industry is something that moves really fast. It's something that changes really fast. So the developers don't really have the necessary time to allocate to really consider security measures. So they are rushed into delivering out products as fast as possible. And this is why they have these small glitches, small problems that can lead to user accounts being stolen and etc. So anyway, the first old threat in your application would be vulnerabilities, old vulnerabilities. The second one, unwanted content. Whenever we have a new application out there, there are always going to be cyber criminals who would start filling it or delivering unwanted content related to that application. Before Facebook, spam was still out there, phishing was still out there. So when Facebook appeared and people started moving towards Facebook, spam and phishing also started to target Facebook. So there you go, we have all threats in new applications. Then we have malicious programs, malware. And we have malware that will target all the new applications once they become popular. So whenever an application becomes popular enough, whenever many users start using it, cyber criminals, it will become worthwhile for them to also attack that application. And when talking about Coopface, because Coopface is a very hot worm at the moment. By the way, how many of you know about Coopface? Coopface, right? The social networking worm. When talking about Coopface, we can definitely foresee the development of new Coopface modules that will help the worm spread on more and more social networks. Because in 2007, when Coopface in 2008, sorry, when Coopface first appeared, it was only targeting MySpace and Facebook. And right now, as we speak, it is targeting more than 20 social networks. So the bad guys are still working on it, they are still developing it to be able to spread it through more and more websites. I'm not sure if you can read the screenshot. The screens are pretty big, so you can read it. Can you tell me what this looks like? What does it look like? Yeah, but the content. Like the birthday, activities, name, favorite movies, political views. Yeah, it looks like a profile for a social network, that's right. So why am I showing you this screenshot is that because it is a very good example. This screenshot is actually a screenshot of a config file used by Coopface. And this is as technical as we will get here. We will not go into reverse engineering Coopface or things like that. But why am I showing this screenshot is that I want to prove a point. And the point is that Coopface, while it is still a very hot worm, it is not actually a very complex piece of malware. This is a config file that can be read by anyone in the room. There's no encryption being used, there's no obfuscation being used. It is just plain text delivered from the command and control center to the malware. So what am I trying to say is that Coopface this year will definitely evolve. At this point, Coopface is mostly attacking unexperienced users. They use, so to call them, cheap social engineering techniques. Even though they are cheap, they are still working. The social engineering techniques are still working and more users are getting infected. But as the pool of users that are falling for these cheap tricks is draining out, they will have to start targeting more advanced users, more experienced users. And you want to target when you want to target more experienced users, you must care about the AV detection rates. You must care about how many antivirus detect you. And in order to, as a bad guy, in order to prevent or to delay AV detection, you must make the analysis process harder. You must make the life of me and my colleagues even harder. So probably they will start encrypting their config files to make us to make it harder for us to analyze whenever they send new modules and to identify and to detect them. They will probably try to work on their communications infrastructure, because at this point the technology is pretty simple. It's some sort of server-client technology for delivering new updates, which can be shut down rather easily. It's not that easy, but it's not impossible also. So probably they'll think about something like peer-to-peer architecture. And in the end, they will start using drive-by downloads. They started experimenting with this at the end of 2009, so probably the shift from social engineering that is making them attack users that are not that experienced will shift towards using exploits, web browser exploits, or Flash player plugin exploits, PDF exploits, to start infecting more advanced users. Now, in terms of new threats and new applications, there's not much to say about, but because as I told you, we don't really know what the new threats and new applications will be. But there is one point that I would like to make. I think it's one very important point about the future. And this is about targeted attacks. Everybody started talking about targeted attacks at the end of 2010, at the beginning of 2010. I started talking about them, I think, at the half of 2009. But I was talking about them from the point of view of social networks, because at this moment we are sharing so much information on social networks. So much personal information is becoming public right now about us on social networks like Facebook or Twitter. So the thing is, the advertisers are already using this information. They are using it to deliver targeted ads on Facebook. They are using it to deliver targeted ads on Google. And these ads are targeted based on whatever information is public about you, things like age, gender, location, interests, place of work, and stuff like that. So if the advertisers are using it, I don't see any reason why the cyber criminals will not also start using targeted attacks based on the information that is out there. And the thing is, the information is already there. The APIs are there, the profiles are there, the social networks are there. The only thing that's left to do for them is to automate these attacks. So in order to let's say, just lose a couple of days by profiling a certain person, getting as much information about him as possible so that the cyber criminals could launch a targeted attack, the information is already there, so they can just script it and they can just use it. And the thing is, I'm not just saying this as a personal opinion, I'm not just bluffing about the future. The thing is, we've already seen this happening. We've already seen clues of automation of targeted attacks happening in 2009. So we've seen bad guys doing geographical IP location for personalizing their social engineering strategy. This is a screenshot of a website that is trying to imitate the Reuters website. It says powerful explosion burst in Bangalore this morning. You would see this if you would browse it from Bangalore. But if you would browse the website from, let's say, Moscow, you would see something like powerful explosion burst in Moscow. So they are using the geographical information of IP addresses, the IP addresses that users use to browse the websites, to better craft their social engineering story, so that the social engineering story will fit better with the user, and the user will be more likely to fall for it and get infected. Then they are using language targeting. This is actually a screenshot of a Nigerian scam letter sent out to Romanian users. Maybe the Romanians in the room can read it. The thing is, it's actually used by, it's actually written by translating it from English using Google Translate. So they have the information about where we live, they have the information about what's our mother tongue. So they are already starting to send out personalized scams in the victim's natural language. Because of course the victim is more likely to fall for it if the social engineering attack is presented in his own language. And last but not least, our personal interests are being targeted. This is a screenshot of some Twitter spam that is actually using the trending topics that are happening right now on Twitter. You can see them on the right, things like AT&T, iPhone, or Apple, and they are adding these keywords to the spamming tweets. So by adding the most trending keywords, the most interesting keywords for the Twitter users will be more likely to click on the link. So therefore, the efficiency rate of their attack will increase. So these are the examples of automated targeted attacks that we are seeing. And I personally think, and we personally think, that in 2010 this threat will definitely